So what I'm saying is, this that I'm trying to redefine development economics, but then you need to understand the basic economics, capitalist economics, and what is the drawback. Which, though I would say that through technology firms, labor productivity has been enhanced a lot through education policies within developing countries and developed countries. More and more people are educated and they are more healthy because the governments have invested in it. But then there is no clear link has been established between society and the markets. That's really important because development policy is all about mostly helping local governments or federal governments to then have policies which could then assist the poor, the impoverished, through subsidies or through tax rebates or through certain ideas of governance like microfinance, banking, or small and medium enterprise institute, or there are ways, there are poverty reduction strategies, and yes, economic growth needs to be inclusive, which means that the main purpose of economic growth should be that it should be equally benefiting everybody, all spectrum of the population. It should be increasing the incomes of the poor at a far greater propensity than increasing income of the middle class or the rich. But then that's not happening. Capitalism, there's something to understand in capitalism. Yes, it is international trade and globalization that will eventually bail out the labor, the unskilled labor, because international firms, international multinationals, through working through global value chains, would pay more than what they would be paid by domestic entrepreneurs to the labor, and that's how the incomes of the labor would increase, and then the labor would become part of the middle class. That's the story of China. But then, how do we re-enter economics? Yes, my friends, changing the perspectives of economies of scale. Economies of scale should not be really defined through less and less labor required to produce more and more output, through including technology and machinery, increasing productivity of the capital. Rather, in a labor surplus economy for developing countries, where like Pakistan, where there is a huge bulge and there's so many unskilled labor, and there's a large population of rural areas, large population of farmers, and there are non-farm activities in the rural areas as well. What you need to do is use economies of scale idea by first, same thing, increasing labor productivity. More and more labor would be employed to have more and more output. What in economics it would mean is that through generating employment and encouraging domestic commerce, what you are proposing is that your GDP would increase. It's such a simple idea, but of course, so the economics which is being taught in universities, this economics 101 or micro and macroeconomics needs to be reoriented, because we are teaching to the MBA students, to the psychology students, and being in economics department as a professor in University of Management and Technology. I would be to psychology students and business studies students and even PhD students on basic economics, and it would the books would just say that economies of scale, productivity, it's only if they are talking about machinery, capital, and technology, whereas ignoring the labor aspect, while yes, emphasizing on social development through improving the health indicators of the population, or through improving the education profile of the population. But can you understand? It's not really this, policymakers will get confused. You need to bring labor to the inherently to the economic system how Karl Marx would have proposed. Karl Marx and socialist economics would propose that labor should not be exploited, especially unskilled labor should not be exploited. This social capital, which could be identified through high levels of education, can be promoted by all means, because with the advent of 21st century, services sectors have thrived: financial sector, telecommunication sector, banking sector, and there are so many aspects of the services sector which uses productive labor who have a better education profiles. But still, for a developing country like Pakistan, there are so many poor people. There are so many unskilled labor. There are non-farm and farm activities by the farmers, by the rural population, and mostly they come into the definition of poverty, because they are not earning decent incomes. Now, despite having minimum wage laws, but still, so laborers are, so why not reorient and tell the students another economics, redefine development economics, that economies of scale would, from 2025, will add a debate into how unskilled labor, farmers, rural labor would then be employed more and more to increase more and more output. I mean, that's a great thought. I'm working on the framework. I have given statements. And now, I'm providing a framework. Then it will become, a theoretical framework will be transformed into an empirical framework. And then it would be transformed into a theory which would be, if I may say, it would be defined through emphasizing on labor productivity and would be motivated from socialist thought that, human